It's time to finish our masterpiece. I'm Meek Nomicon. Now watch as it paints me. Every night, I find myself alone in the studio, curtains drawn tight, my neat row of paints, palettes and brushes in the same place on the drawer by the easel. The canvas upon it sits, as always, unfinished, Marie's half-painted face frozen in silent song. It's late out, as it always is when I awaken here. Marie is nowhere to be found. She must still be at the theatre. Even when the curtains fall and the stage lights dim, the night is forever young to its star sopranos. I would always wait outside her dressing room, roses in hand, scores of other bright-eyed admirers spilling through the halls, though she alone was mine, and I was hers. It's cold, bitterly cold tonight, but still I draw the curtains and open the windows wide. There's a stench in the room, deep and damp and sickly sweet, that I can't ever seem to be rid of. Besides that, the fumes from the linseed oil make my head spin. Like every night, I measure out my paints, arranging the small dabs of colour on my palette from lightest to darkest, titanium white and cadmium yellow, to corpse brown and lamp black. I wet my brush with oil and gently start mixing the pigments. It feels just a little bit like magic, watching them swirl and mix, forming new colours from old. What shall we paint first? You know, it'd be quite unfortunate to paint her face only to mess up the hair and have to start again. Also, I quite like the creepy mannequin vibe we've got going on with the face right now, so let's paint the hair. I blend a dark, deep red on my palette as I envision her hair in my mind's eye. Marie rarely ever bound her locks in fashionable plaits or ringlets, not even on our wedding day. I remember how her glossy black waves almost shimmered beneath her veil. The colour of my palette is as dull as mud. I sigh and blend it into the background instead. I apply my paint with a generous dab of oil, but it seems I didn't have to. The canvas is still wet from the last night, and the night before. I must have painted and repainted the same background countless times. To say it's difficult to paint by lamplight, my muse nowhere in sight, is an understatement, of course. But lately, these nightly hours are the only time I find myself able to lift my brush. I stop every few strokes.
Spirits at odds.
I had joked that the pain that forced me away from the tailor shop meant I could finally return to my paintings, at the very least. I was never any good at humour. Marie had sensed my worries, consoled me sweetly, in her voice that could charm stone to life.
Oh, Sam, don't worry. I have roles lined up for months. Go ahead and paint. We can still live comfortably.
Well, at least she was supportive of us then. And who knows, maybe we can turn our artwork into a living. It hurt. A small part of it did, beyond the physical, beyond the ailments, to seek her permission. To be unable to care for my darling the way I had when we were young, brimming with talent but crushingly unknown. I mean, we're clearly very good at paintings, right? So we can easily market that. Well, she had been. I was, and still am, nothing. But perhaps, finally, it would now be my turn to bring my vision to the world. If only it didn't hurt so damned much. Time passes, and I still don't manage more than a few strokes. A small patch of dark over an already wet canvas. Or perhaps, time hasn't passed at all. The broken clock on the wall would suggest as much. Perhaps the seconds have lain still. The world outside unchanging, and I, the only thing that moves. Have I moved? Is repeating the same brushstrokes like a clockwork doll movement? I shiver and sigh. Perhaps sleep would be a better endeavor. Perhaps the next night we'll meet more success. Oh, I doubt it. We'll probably just repaint our background again. At least it's adding texture, maybe? I stand, setting aside my paints and palette, and slowly move to shut the windows. I stop. There, out in the front garden, barely lit by a street lamp, stands a figure that can only be Marie. Well, Marie and a guest. She bids goodbye to another figure, tall and broad-shouldered, and then she laughs, a beautiful laugh, a heartfelt laugh, and embraces him before he makes his reluctant exit on the carriage, stopped by the gate. For a moment, I don't know what to think. A friend? A co-star? Perhaps that amiable tenor she mentioned every now and then. I didn't see his face, but Marie's social circle has always eclipsed my own. It must be. But why would he come to our home? Why would she laugh that way? Okay, just be reasonable. Maybe he was just escorting her home. In the garden, in the midst of walking to the front door, humming to herself, Marie suddenly looks up. For a moment, her eyes go wide, and she blinks as if shaking herself from a daze. I instinctively step back from the windows. Perhaps it's guilt that makes me do so. Marie is finally home, and oh, I've missed her so. How could the first thing I think upon seeing my darling be the worst thoughts my mind could conjure? For the first time in many, many nights, I feel just well enough to leave the studio. I'll prepare Marie a pot of her favourite chamomile tea. I'll listen as she tells me of the nights, the theatre, the thousand small anecdotes she never runs out of, and maybe, just maybe, ask her again to sit for a portrait for me, like she used to. The house feels larger than it used to. You know, I just had a thought. If, we've clearly painted her a lot, right? So if we can't convince her to sit for us, can we not just paint her portrait from another portrait of her? I mean, it is not ideal, but it'll work in a pinch, right? Perhaps I was shut in the studio too long. Still, how could I so quickly become a stranger to my own home? The memories are fuzzy. The years blur together like a wash of oil colours. My mother and I, carrying our sparse luggage, stepping inside for the first time. My stepfather laughing, his elbows on the breakfast table, chattering over something he'd read in the paper. Then, silent hallways and empty rooms. And then, myself, welcoming my new bride to these solitary halls, hanging our newly taken portraits above the mantel. A mantel that's not used anymore. The walls are barren now. I feel the walls in the dark, leaving sticky trails of paint behind, tracing the places where they used to hang. I'm guessing they were our paintings, right? Maybe they were the paintings of Marie we used to do. The paintings I'd framed, the seaside landscape I'd painted on our honeymoon, the watercolour sketch of Marie that couldn't hope to capture a sheen of her hair. The still life of candles and flowers that had wilted because I took too long to finish. Even the painting of roses in a vase, the first gift I had ever given her. Ah, the form of ultimate flowers, ones that will never wilt for you, Marie.
I wanted to bring you some flowers, but I was afraid they would wilt before I saw you next.
Oh, that really was the plan. Clearly, we are both highly romantic.
You painted them. Oh, they're beautiful, Sam.
The naked walls stare blankly at me. Confused, but with nowhere else to go, I continue through the house. As I walk, I pass the furniture my stepfather left me, the shelves and tables that always seemed so large and grand as a boy, now missing or mantled in thick white linen. They remind me of corpses on a hospital table, lying dead still, covered in sheets. Marie? I try to call out, but phlegm blocks my throat. I cough, long and drawn and wet, and then, once more attempt to voice her name. Marie! It slicks off my tongue like a serpent uncoiling. I had always loved her name, so tender and sweet, free of harsh syllables. Marie. It was a name like an impressionist blur, painted in soft strokes with a fine oil brush. It was the greatest joy in the world to join my name to hers. Silence fills the halls, a long, drawn-out silence, a howled breath. Finally, my darling answers.
Sam,
I've missed you, darling.
is this a dream?
I cough again, another long, wet trail dripping from my lips.
Is it a good dream, darling?
I mean, I'm currently dying in said dream, so you better say no.
I don't know. It feels like a nightmare. An awful, wretched nightmare.
I limp towards the sound of her voice, so musical, so lovely, even at the brink of tears. Don't cry, darling, I want to say, but thick, syrupy liquid fills my throat. No matter what troubles you, I am here. She stands at the edge of the staircase, shaking, a candlestick in hand. The steps are sticky and wet. I inch carefully, practically a crawl not to slip. My darling lifts the candle as I approach. In the dark of the house, its flickering flame almost blinds me. I don't see the expression on her face as she screams. Well, I'm going to assume that's a scream of
Marie?
excitement.
Where are you, my darling?
Every word feels like a dagger, puncturing my throat. I limp down each hall, leaving a trail of steps that feel damp and heavy, slick and wet. I try the door to our bedroom. No, Marie's room. I had started sleeping in the spare one when my coughing fits would wake her in the night. It was cold, so cold alone, but my darling needed her rest. We don't really want to spread our disease to her. The knob is slick and hard to twist, my hand slipping on the brass. Finally, I manage to push the door open. Though it's completely dark when I peer inside, I know it is empty. No warmth, no flesh, no sound of sweet breath within. I continue down the hall. I trudge, my steps heavy and wet, trying not to slip over thick, slick surface.
Marie, what's wrong, darling?
Don't you wish to greet your lover?
Please come out. I don't understand.
The dining room is empty, truly empty. The shelves, where the china and silverware were once neatly stacked, now agape, hollow. The walnut table is covered in a thick white sheet, the matching set of chairs removed. I rest against the blanketed table. My hand leaves a ruddy smear against the sheet. It must be more paint, though it's hard to make out in the dark. I'd needed spectacles for quite some time, but Marie had never liked the bookish type. I continue on through the familiar yet unfamiliar house. my steps stained and slow, my breath short, sticky, wet.
Marie! Where are you?
I'm in no shape to play in hide and seek, Marie.
Oh, Marie! It hurts! Won't you come to me?
I hear the front door slam shut. It must be freezing cold. Why has she gone to the garden? I tread the sound with new urgency, uncaring of the sticky, wet floors, forgetting for just a moment the pain that snaps and burns through my flesh. I reach for the oily, damp knob.
Don't, Sam, please.
But Marie, I love you. Her voice rings from behind the door.
I don't understand, darling. Have I done something to upset you?
Her sobs echo loudly. I never thought an ugly sound could come from my darling's lips, but her words.
I love you, Sam. I always will. But I can't bear to see you like this. Please, I beg of you, return to where you came. You can't be here. I've moved on now.
What? Return where? Dearest, you aren't making any sense. Moved on. I'm your husband, Marie. What on earth is there to move on from?
Please remember, Sam. You were ill. You were ill for a long, long time. And you never recovered.
I know I'm unwell, Marie, but you said we would still... Are you leaving me? Because I can't care for you anymore? Is that it?
You left me. You're dead, Sam. You've been dead for more than a year.
I mean, true, but as I've clearly proven, I'm the living dead. You can't leave me, Marie.
If this is a joke, darling, it's a cruel one. Do you want me dead? Is that it? Am I better off dead to you?
My darling does nothing but sob behind the door. How quickly I regret my words. Oh, if only I could see her face, look into her eyes, reassure her and see that she loves me still. I twist the knob with slick, oily hands.
No! Don't come out! Please!
On the other end, with a sharp gasp, my darling grasps the knob closed, pushing her weight of the small frame against the weathered wood.
Don't come out!
I'm afraid, Marie. You must see me. I am still your husband. You must stay with me forever, Marie. Even if I am going to mentally torture you by doing this.
No. Not until you tell me what's going on. Are you leaving me, darling? After everything? I need you. I need you!
My darling utters a sharp cry as the hinges groan against the frame, loosening her grip as she stumbles back onto the cobblestone path. I instantly forget her sharp words as I limp towards her side.
Marie, are you all right? I'm so sorry.
Stop it, Sam. I'll keep you alive. Every time I sing, I'll sing for you. I'll keep you in my song, in my art.
But you want me to leave your life? Oh, but it hurts. Her shrill voice grates against the ooze, spilling forth from my ears.
It hurts. It hurts!
My head rings. My chest is a hollow cavity, slippery and wet, flowing with hot, sickly fluid. I cough and spew more syrupy, warm liquid from my lips.
Your art, it was always about you.
We sounded a little bit resentful there.
Your fame, your voice, your needs, your wants, your desires. You were a work of art, of course, but did you ever think about me? Did you ever think about poor Sam, dying alone in a cold, white room?
That feels a little bit unfair. I mean, when we first got ill or injured, Marie was there to support us. Here I am coming to Marie's defense, yet I'm the one that chose to torture her then.
Poor Sam, who couldn't even hold a brush in his hands at the end. Poor Sam, left to rot into nothing. A year was all it took for you to forget me.
I am shaking her, leaving smears of dark, muddy paint over her pale shoulders. The next moment, she breaks from me, running blindly into the street. The carriage doesn't stop for her. Of course it doesn't. My dearest is a wisp of dark curls, a black gown billowing in the night like a shade. She should be light as a breath, soft as mist. And suddenly now, she is dead. But the song that comes is the scream of her breaking bones, her ripping flesh, the breath that leaves her lungs.
Ha! But every sound my darling makes is beautiful.
I think we lost our sanity when we died. We probably should be a little bit more remorseful about the fact we just got our wife murdered. Oh, damn, she's truly mangled. I scoop her mass of flesh and deep crimson hair in my arms. Her blood pools around me, syrupy and dark, a colour so deep no artist's pigment could hope to capture. The purest scarlet or vermilion red, a dull stain in comparison. It is not Sam that I see staring back in the deep pools of our blood. Oh, you are beautiful, darling. Would you allow me to paint you? My darling is a lovely creature, even broken. I gently carry her up the steps, one slick, damp, crooked step at a time, setting her mass on jutted bone, of the silver and flesh, on the velvet seat in my studio. The fabric soaks in deep, so very deep. It's dark, as it is every night. I leave the lamps unlit, the windows shut tight. How strange the stench of linseed oil ever bothered me. After all, I no longer breathe. My darling sits still, ever so still, not a breath escaping her broken flesh. What a lovely model. Oh, what a wonderful thing.
All the more beautiful now that it surely hurts to sing.
Did we ever truly love our wife?
Oh, it is agony to hold a brush. It always does. But I can bear it. After all, who can truly create without pain?
You know, if our wife came back to life and murdered us, or at least tried to severely injure us, we would probably deserve it. You are a true masterpiece now, honey. Ending 1. We have our Muse. I don't think it's going to change anything, but let's try and paint her face this time. I mixed a tone as warm as her cheeks as I envisioned Marie's sweet face in my mind's eye. Her lips like roses, the graceful turn of her nose, those eyes that glittered like stars under the candlelight. Oh, I can see why we needed glasses. It's no use. I can't focus. Her features are as blurred in my mind as the mess of oil and pigment smeared across my canvas. I sigh and scrape it off with a palette knife and mix a deep blend of black and red for the background instead. Let's reminisce about the photographs instead then. The walls are laid bare. The pictures that hung on the pale wallpaper are gone. Blurry grey photographs of my parents, myself as a boy, and Marie. Oh, so many pictures of Marie, each displayed in a filigree frame. We seem so happy together. Even our wedding photograph, the two of us dressed in fine clothes, I'd sewn myself, smiling like fools even while our picture was taken. For how could we wear solemn faces on such a joyous day? It, too, is gone. The pale wallpaper stands bare, stripped to its bone. Confused, but with nowhere else to go, I continue through the house. I will allow you to go, Marie. I won't cause your death again. I let go of the door, my hand slicking up its oily surface.
Forgive me, Marie. I can see that you don't want to speak to me right now. But whenever you do, whatever this is about, I'll be waiting in the studio.
I leave the door. I leave my darling alone, sobbing in the garden. You know, you can understand why half the rooms are now vacant. I mean, if we're just constantly roaming the halls around the studio, I'd probably lock off that wing as well. It's dark, so very dark, but dawn will soon paint that dim black sky. I retrace my slick, wet footsteps through the hall, up the staircase, one trudging damp step at a time.
Spirits, it hurts.
It burns. I feel no breath in my lungs. My chest could be a hollow cavity, slippery and wet, spilling with hot, sickly fluid.
It hurts. Oh, it hurts.
I stagger into a tall, sheet-covered object, the linen sliding off with a grasp of my clumsy, slick fingers. Yes, show me ourselves. It's Marie's floor-length mirror.
No. Oh, no. No, 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 no!
I see we've learnt the truth. Oh, we really did match move there. We're still stunning. Oh, that is quite a vibrant red as well. Marie, I can't possibly think why you wouldn't want to look at me. I am beautiful. I'm in the studio, a dark, dim studio, as empty as it is every night. The curtains are shut, the lamps are unlit. My palette is a mess of murky colours, rust reds, corpse browns, a musky, sickly, sweetly rotting stench fills the room. I don't know why the smell of linseed oil ever bothered me. After all, I no longer breathe. Is our corpse still rotting in the room? Is that what we keep smelling? The handle of the door turns behind me. Slowly, it creaks open, and a figure steps inside. It's me. He limps more than he steps, in crooked motions against the floor, dragging his body along with a wet, wide brush as he swabs with red pool at his feet. I watch him pull himself before the canvas.
Samuel.
He speaks in my mother's voice, a tone that could swell with warmth or derision, command or dependency, pride or disappointment in a moment's notice.
Please, give up your suffering. Give up this. Come back to the earth with me.
My hands are too slick to hold my brush. I stab it into my flesh and fix it between my bones. Then dip the bristles into his blood.
Sammy.
He speaks in my stepfather's voice. but without laughter or joy. In the same cadence, I imagine him taking his last breath, crimson staining his uniform, the dog tags cold around his neck.
Don't suffer anymore, Sam. You are nothing already.
Well, that's reassuring. Thanks, Dad.
Forget your pain. Return to the void with us.
My brush is drying. I plunge it into his chest, wet it with his oily breath.
Sam?
He speaks with my voice, hoarse and raspy and tired, so very, very tired.
This won't make you worthy of love. Not the world's, not Marie's, not your friends or peers or critics. Come back to our grave. End our suffering. You know I don't do this for love.
I clean my brush with the paint thinner, knocking over the jar as it spills across the drawer and onto the wet, soaking floor. I dry the bristles on my worn, rotting shirt, then soak it in the thick white mucus of his tears. My words are only partially true, just as his words are not fully wrong. Neither my rotting corpse nor the memory of what once was Sam will gain a thing from this toil. I paint the hours away, or perhaps take no time at all. The clock on the wall never turns its hands, suggesting that the world lies still, and seconds never pass, and I am the only thing that moves within it. It hurts. Oh, it hurts! Heavy, syrupy tears flood my vision, fill my throat, my chest, choking me. Every movement of my hands leaves cracks in what's left of my brittle bones. You know, I feel a little bit cheated. I was informed that everyone was supposed to stop hurting as soon as I died. He stares at me all the while, silent still, like a mirror. If I loved him, I would stop. I would crawl to my grave like he wishes. But I love this more than I love myself. I birth him from within me. As I create, so too am I born.
And he and I are beautiful.
I shall be immortalized forever. We have our self-portrait again. Wait, that's interesting. So as soon as you start a new game, you get different content? I'm guessing this is because we've got the first two endings, right? I step through the darkness of the house, inch by inch, choking back dust and tears that threaten to spill. It had been months since I last stepped foot here, but every floorboard, every turn of its halls are as familiar to me as when sunlight once shone through the windows. Wait, is this going to be from Marie's perspective, if she's not been here in months? Sam always opened the windows when he worked in his studio, no matter the weather, no matter how rainy or freezing cold. The same windows that now were open, gaping from the garden outside. Someone had been through this house. Everything of value I had taken with me months ago, of course. But though I could not bear to stay here any longer, I could bear it even less to let this place go. Sam had grown up here. This place meant so much to him, and I had so many memories, housed here deep within its walls. I didn't mean to spend less and less time within them as the years went on. I didn't mean to give Sam less and less. But I did. And then, he was gone. My heels clack against the wooden floorboards as my footsteps echo in the dark. I stop at the doorway of the kitchen. The old rickety shelf gapes out, empty, while the walnut table silently stands beneath a muffled sheet. On Sundays, when he wasn't off to the tailor's at the crack of dawn, we would have breakfast together. I remember how he'd sit at that very table, combing through the newspaper, carefully clipping out any new photograph of me that appeared. A sound snaps me out of my memories. Muffled footsteps, not mine. A voice calling my name. My heart stops in my chest. I swear I can hear it. Him! Oh, this is very much Marie's perspective from that encounter, right? Not the academy student in a hand-me-down green coat full of life, nor the man who waited by my dressing room with roses, almost too shy to present them to me. And not the man in the paint-stained apron, hunched over a canvas, eyes locked in concentration. The owner of the voice cannot be that man, but it has his voice calling out to me. My mind is playing tricks on me. It can't be. Holding my candlestick tightly, I slowly approach the staircase.
Sam?
I call, peering into the darkness above me. The outline of a figure stands, its movement slow and haggard.
Is this a dream?
The shape in the darkness coughs and coughs again, in wretched pain. I choke back my own sobs in my throat.
Is it a good dream, darling?
He finally says,
I don't know. It feels like a nightmare. An awful, wretched nightmare.
as the figure steps into view. I blink against the flickering candlelight and finally look at him. My darling. Oh, my poor, poor precious Sam. No. What's left of him? Oh, we can embrace him. Well, that wasn't an option last time. I am not ready to let you go, Sam.
I love you, Sam.
I say through my tears, climbing the staircase one shaking step at a time.
I always will.
My arms meet rotted fabric and broken flesh. My lips meet bone and blood. Take me with you. I try to speak, but gag. Oh, you
Don't cry, darling.
Nobody surprised you gag. You did just kiss a corpse.
No matter what troubles you, I am here.
I know I told you to embrace him, but maybe get him to a doctor first, right? Oh, singer found dead. Beloved soprano Marie Claremont's body found in former residence. Marie Rue, acclaimed opera singer Marie Claremont, was found dead in her former residence yesterday evening after the former failed to appear? No, failed to show up for a performance at the theatre late last night. Well, I guess you'll be joining us now. We will be together forever, Marie. Do you reckon we get to see Marie's death from her perspective if we scream? Nope, we just end immediately. Well, we can probably assume that we did in fact die though. You know, I liked that new ending, especially from the twisted perspective. It definitely feels a lot more fleshed out now from the jam. And the art is so pretty. If you enjoyed your time here, I'd really appreciate you to like this video and subscribe to this channel. But other than that, it was a spooky day and I'll catch you next time, guys.